The Force is light and full of shadows.
Before we dive in, check the link in the description if you want exclusive Timelines members-only videos you won't find on YouTube, all on our Patreon. The rain is the first thing. It hits the transparent steel like something alive, hard and relentless against the windows of the most powerful office in the galaxy, turning the Coruscant skyline into smeared light and nothing else. Deep night. Storm season. The city 100 stories below looks like it is burning. Inside, two men are trying to kill each other. Mace Windu's purple blade catches Force lightning. The sound of it fills the chamber, wet, electric, the snap and hiss of power being held against itself. He has been holding it for 30 seconds. Every muscle in his body is screaming. He does not step back. Palpatine is at the window. What stands at the window is not the man who attended Anakin's deployments with warm congratulations and warmer eyes. The face is wrong now. The lightning mace reflected, has scored it, stripped it, collapsed the careful architecture of the man who has run a galaxy for a decade. What looks out from beneath that ruin is something older than the republic it pretends to govern. Yellow eyes. A grin that has nothing behind it except patience. Unlimited power, Palpatine screams. 3 bodies are on the floor. Aegon Kolar went down first. Between one breath and the next, his expression still surprised. Saesee Tiin beside him, a master who had felt the danger before it struck, and it hadn't been enough. Kit Fisto lasted 3 seconds longer than the others, which was long enough to matter not at all. Their blades have deactivated. The silence of dead lightsabers, in a room where lightsabers are the only authority left, is its own kind of sound. Mace steps around Tine's body without looking down. He has already filed the dead somewhere behind his operational mind. He can grieve them when this is finished. He cannot grieve them and win simultaneously. Anakin's boots hit the floor. He has run from the temple to the executive building in something that was not quite panic and was not quite reason. His breathing is ragged. His blade is lit. Blue. Always blue. Still blue. And his feet are moving before his mind has caught up with why. He can save her. The thought has been running underneath everything for months. He knows. He can teach me. I need him alive. I need him to... I killed Dooku 2 days ago, on the invisible hand. He told me to, and I did it. The man was kneeling, disarmed, and I put a blade through his neck because Palpatine said it was necessary. He lied to me. He used her to. If Mace kills him, the knowledge dies, and Padmé, I have to stop Mace. I have to. The vision hits. The rain disappears. The blade hum drops out of the air. Everything stops. In the silence that opens where the world was, he hears a sound he does not recognize, and then immediately recognizes completely. A respirator. Mechanical, steady, breathing in a rhythm that is his own rhythm, but made of metal. Made of damage. Made of something that will never stop, because it cannot stop. The sound of breathing that is a sentence with no end. A child's voice, small and absolute. Master Skywalker? There are too many of them. What are we going to do? Then Padmé. Her voice at a great distance, as if from the other side of a door he has already closed. I don't know you anymore. You're breaking my heart. A sound like a world burning, deep and enormous and geological. The hiss of liquid stone. The roar of heat at a scale that has no name. His own voice. Not his voice. A voice wearing his voice as a mask, hollow underneath, mechanical underneath, speaking a single word in answer to a question he cannot hear. Everything. Then, silence. Not the silence of nothing. The silence of something vast and patient and entirely without malice. The living force spreading in every direction at once, placing something like a hand gently on his shoulder. Not a warning. Not a command. Just this. The full consequence of the next choice he makes, delivered in the time it takes a heart to beat. 1 second. A lifetime inside it. The rain comes back. The lightning. Mace's blade grinding against the arc of Palpatine's power. The wet electric sound of a duel that has gone on too long. Anakin does not move toward Mace. He turns. His blue blade moves in a single arc, precise, without flourish, without anger. The kind of cut a surgeon makes when the diagnosis is already complete. Palpatine's lightsaber hand separates at the wrist, the red blade hits the floor. The sound of it dying is remarkable in its smallness, a hum, cutting off. Like a voice mid-sentence, Palpatine screams. A real sound, not the theatrical display of a man performing agony for a political chamber. The sound of something that has not felt genuine pain in longer than most species live, suddenly remembering what it is. It travels through every window in the chamber. The rain almost swallows it. Almost, Mace Windu stops moving. His purple blade is still lit, his chest is heaving. He stands at the window with the storm at his back and stares at his former Padawan's former student, and says 4 words with no fury in them at all. "What have you done?" Not a question. A man staring at the ruins of a model of the world he built across a lifetime. Anakin steps forward. He raises his free hand and the Force presses Palpatine against the transparent steel. Controlled, steady, not enough to crush, enough to hold. His blue blade comes to rest at the hollow of Palpatine's throat. He looks at the face, really looks, the deformed skull beneath what was a man. The yellow eyes that are running calculations even now, even here, even bleeding on a window 100 stories above the city. There is no fear in them. There is assessment. The particular patience of something that considers this a delay rather than a conclusion. Anakin looks at him and sees an empty room. Every careful word, every private hour, every whispered suggestion that the Jedi never truly saw his potential, that Palpatine alone had always understood. He looks at all of it and sees the walls of a cell he walked into willingly, for years, and called it being chosen. "You were never going to save her," he says. Quiet, almost wondering. "You were going to use her to own me." Palpatine breathes. His remaining hand is pressed flat against the transparent steel. When he speaks, the pain is there and it is already being managed. Already being converted into something usable. "Anakin," he says, "my dear boy, you have made a catastrophic mistake." Mace crosses the room, 3 bodies between him and Anakin. He steps around every one of them without slowing. He stops at Anakin's shoulder, and when he speaks his voice is controlled in the way of a man trained since childhood to keep the largest things inside the smallest containers. "Skywalker, explain, now." Anakin does not take his eyes off Palpatine. He starts to talk. It comes out without order. The nightmares of Padmé's death. Precise, repeating. Arriving in the hours before every dawn with the texture of memory rather than vision. The private meetings in this office. The Darth Plagueis legend, delivered over dinner with the warmth of someone sharing something sacred. The years. The patient, specific years of a hand finding every crack in him and filling each one with something that felt like understanding and was something else entirely. And then, quieter, the part he has not let himself say aloud until now. 2 days ago, aboard the Invisible Hand, he killed Count Dooku. The man was kneeling. Disarmed, his hands were empty, and his head was bowed, and Palpatine said it was necessary, and Anakin believed him and brought his blade down. He told himself it was justice. He is only standing outside it now, in this room, for the first time, understanding what he was being practiced for. The execution was not justice, it was a rehearsal. Mace listens. His face does not move. Something behind his face does. "You came here," Mace says when Anakin stops, "to let him turn you." "I came here to stop you from killing him," Anakin says. "And then, I saw what I would become if I did." The rain fills the silence between them. Palpatine's voice comes in underneath it, smooth and precisely timed. "Order 66, Anakin. It has already been prepared. Without my continued governance, the Jedi will be. Don't." The blade presses fractionally closer. "I know about the chips." Something moves in Palpatine's face. Small, fast gone before it fully arrives. A hairline fracture in a surface that has been flawless for decades. He looks at Anakin with something he has not reached for in a very long time. Surprise, from Anakin's left, low and deliberate, "What chips?" Before Anakin can answer, his comlink sounds. An incoming signal, cycling once, twice, waiting. He does not reach for it. He keeps the blade where it is, and keeps his eyes on the yellow eyes across from him and lets it cycle in his pocket, unanswered. Mace looks at him. Not with distrust, not yet, with trust. With something that has no name because it has never existed between them before. The particular expression of a man examining a wall he built 14 years ago, and finding that the reasons he built it no longer apply. The rain hammers the windows. Between them, held against the glass by nothing but the Force, and one Jedi's decision not to look away. The most dangerous being in the galaxy bleeds and calculates and waits, and Anakin Skywalker and Mace Windu stand on the same side of a room. The office is very quiet now. The rain continues. The bodies on the floor do not. Mace moves to Palpatine without ceremony. He pulls a medkit from the first aid station built into the wall behind the Chancellor's desk. The kind of detail that makes the room suddenly feel real, that someone maintained this office, that someone ordered this kit stocked, and someone checked its expiry dates, and all of those people are elsewhere right now. And none of them know what has happened in here tonight. He tears the seal. The sound of it is small and unremarkable. He dresses Palpatine's severed wrist the way a man cleans a weapon. Not gently. Not brutally. With thoroughness. Palpatine accepts it. He is seated on the floor with his back against the Chancellor's desk, his remaining hand Force bonded behind him, and he breathes in the controlled way of someone who has decided that control is the only resource left available to him. He does not perform suffering. He banks it. Anakin crosses to the terminal. It is beautiful in the particular way of things built to hold enormous power. Naboo design in its curves, Coruscant in its material, responsive to touch, precise, elegant, the kind of desk that tells you, before you have read a single document on it, what the man who sat behind it believed about himself. The terminal is unsecured. Palpatine abandoned it mid-session when the duel began and never engaged its lockout protocols, and the desk's emergency access settings recognize active Republic general clearance as sufficient authorization during a declared security incident. Anakin's palm authenticates without hesitation. General Anakin Skywalker. The terminal accepts him. The GAR command frequencies open in a cascade of soft chimes, dozens of them, each one a thread connecting this room to a clone unit somewhere in the galaxy, some on distant worlds, some, he knows, on Coruscant itself. Staged, waiting, he does not hesitate. Signal 1. He types rather than speaks, because a typed command carries differently than a voice command. Less opportunity for the system to route it through channels Palpatine controls. The text is brief. Hold position. Standing orders suspended pending command clarification. Await verification. Do not execute standing contingencies until confirmation. He does not explain why. He does not mention Order 66 by name. What he knows is this. Order 66 was never designed to require a confirmation step. It was built to fire clean. No pause, no question. He has just introduced a mandatory pause. For clones already receiving an activation signal, that pause is a collision, two competing instructions arriving in the same channel at the same instant. Some will resolve it. Some won't. Some won't need to. The frequencies carry it outward at the speed of light. Signal 2. He switches to Jedi Order emergency frequencies. The encryption key for Code 0 lives in his muscle memory. Every Jedi general knows it, drilled until it is automatic, because the scenarios that require it are the scenarios where you cannot afford to think about what your fingers are doing. He enters it. Code 0. Code 0. Temple under active hostile threat. Code 0. That is all it says. That is all it needs to say. Every blast shield in the Jedi Temple will be dropping right now. Every exterior gate locking. The Temple Guard moving to combat posture. Every Jedi inside those walls has approximately 30 seconds to understand that something has changed before anything arrives at the door. 30 seconds. He does not know if it is enough. He sends it anyway. Signal 3. He opens the Chancellor's emergency broadcast network, the frequency that belongs not to the GAR, not to the Jedi Order, but to the Supreme Chancellor of the Republic himself. The channel built to reach everything. He enters a Jedi encryption key that Palpatine almost certainly did not know he possessed, and did not plan for. He leans toward the transmitter and speaks. This is General Skywalker. His voice is steady. He did not expect it to be. Do not trust standing orders. Do not trust clones acting against you. The situation is not what it appears. Stand by for more information. Trust your instincts. Trust the Force. 8 seconds. He cuts the signal. He stands in the silence that follows and does not know how far it reached. He does not know how many received it clearly, and how many received static, and how many received it too late. He does not know how many are already dead. He knows what he sent, and he knows what he hoped, and the gap between those two things is not something he can look at directly right now. From the floor behind him, Palpatine speaks. You've changed nothing, Mace. His voice is pleasant. Conversational. The voice of a man at a dinner table discussing something mildly interesting. My contingencies have contingencies that have contingencies. This is merely one branch of a very large tree. Mace does not respond. He is standing at the window with his arms at his sides and his blade deactivated, and his eyes on the middle distance. He is doing what Mace Windu does better than almost any living being, containing a full reconstruction of reality behind a face that gives nothing away while the reconstruction happens. Palpatine's remaining hand, bonded behind him, flexes once against the restraints. Testing, feeling, Anakin steps away from the terminal. Mace looks at him. The Council needs to hear all of this, Mace says. There isn't time. Anakin does not look at Palpatine when he says it. He looks at Mace. But he can feel the Sith Lord listening. If his dead man's switch fires before we get him to the Senate floor, then we move now. Mace crosses the room and takes position on Palpatine's left. His hand goes to the restraint line, not the hilt. Control before force. You take his right side. I take his left. A pause. In this office, among the bodies of 3 masters, with the rain still running down the windows, and the city below still carrying its lights through the dark as if the world is ordinary, Anakin Skywalker moves to Palpatine's right side. You still don't trust me, Anakin says. I don't need to trust you. No heat in it. An operational statement. I need to use you. We'll have the other conversation if we survive the next hour. Anakin considers this. It is, he thinks, the most honest thing Mace Windu has ever said to him. He finds he respects it more than reassurance would have cost. They start toward the door. On Kashyyyk, Commander Gree's voice cuts through a military frequency fighting static that has no business being there. Signal interference from Coruscant, awaiting, and then something underneath it, a second register entirely, the chip engaging, Order 66 confirmed, all Jedi are, and then Gree again, his own voice returned to him briefly, fighting something inside himself he cannot locate or name. Which order takes priority? I need to know which order takes. On Utapo. Obi-Wan Kenobi's comlink crackles in his hand. He is standing at a cliff edge above a sinkhole city with a battle arranged below him. The signal that reaches him carries nothing clearly except a frequency. He does not need to hear the words. He recognizes the frequency. Anakin, he says. Not a question. A recognition. Aboard the tribunal, in a Star Destroyer corridor moving fast. Rex's voice is already wrong. Wrong in the precise way that a sound is wrong when something is being done to the mechanism that produces it, some internal pressure applied to a thing not built to receive it. Ahsoka. Something is wrong. Something is very wrong with. The signal cuts. 50 meters from the Senate chamber elevator. The corridor is empty. Emergency lighting has activated. Amber, not white. And in that amber the 3 of them cast long shadows that pool at their feet and say nothing. Palpatine walks between them. He has chosen to walk. There is calculation in this that Anakin has been cataloging since they left the office and has not yet been able to name fully. Palpatine is not being dragged. He is accompanying. He is choosing what this looks like from the outside, what record the building's security systems will hold, what story the footage will tell to whoever watches it later. He is already managing his legacy. From the floor of a corridor, one-handed and bleeding, in the company of 2 Jedi who would rather be anywhere else. Anakin watches him and says nothing. Palpatine's lips barely move. It could be breathing. It could be nothing. It could be a man running through mathematics with no good solutions, arriving at the last instrument available, reaching for it. Execute, Palpatine says. The word is beneath a whisper, addressed to no one visible in the corridor. 66. Somewhere inside his robe, pressed against his chest, something sends a signal. The sound reaches them a second later, rising through the walls of the building, through the floor, through the amber-lit corridor that smells of recycled air, and a night that has already gone irreversibly wrong. The unmistakable percussion of clone weaponry at volume. Not a skirmish, not individual shots, many weapons, many targets. The particular cadence of an order being executed at scale. Anakin knows exactly what that sound means. He knew it would come. He sent 3 signals into the dark and hoped. He does not know yet what those signals saved, and what they failed to reach in time. He does not know how many Jedi are dying at this moment in rooms he will never stand in, at the hands of men he has fought beside for 3 years. He does not stop moving. The blaster fire rises beneath the rain. The blaster fire does not stop. If anything, it grows. Every comlink on every military frequency erupts simultaneously, a wall of sound that Anakin has to physically filter through his training, pulling words from static, Order 66 confirmed, executing, / all Jedi officers are declared, / General Kenobi in the name of the, stand by to. But underneath those voices, noise, interference, and other voices, confused and wrong, signal unclear, awaiting command clarification, / General Skywalker's recall order conflicts with, which command takes, the chip fired. It did not fire clean. 3 seconds of interference. He does not know yet what 3 seconds is worth in lives. Mace's hand tightens on the restraint line. Senate floor, he says. Now they run. The executive building's corridors are empty in the way of a place evacuated by people who did not have time to finish what they were doing. A data pad on the floor near a secretary's station, a calf cup still steaming on a windowsill, an open door revealing a meeting room with chairs pushed back at wrong angles, a presentation frozen mid-hologram on the projection surface. The amber emergency lighting turns everything the color of something that has already happened. Mace sets the pace. Controlled, even in flight, every corner checked before they take it, body mechanics precise at speed. Anakin matches him without thinking. The kind of synchronization that comes from years of operating in the same army without ever quite operating together. Palpatine walks between them, not dragged. Walking, his composure is that of a man navigating a mildly inconvenient situation he expects to have resolved shortly. The guards will scramble when they reach the office, Mace says. Tell them to stand down, Anakin says. I have no authority over the Chancellor's personal guard. Palpatine's voice comes in without inflection. Almost helpfully there is a command phrase. I'm happy to give it to you. Both Jedi look at him. He continues as though this is perfectly ordinary. You need me alive for approximately the next hour. I need to be somewhere other than this building for the next 10 minutes. We have a temporary alignment of interests. A pause. The phrase is Delta 7 Sovereign. You're welcome. 2 Sovereign protectors appear at the corridor junction ahead. Crimson armor. Force pikes raised. They say nothing, they never speak, but their body geometry is unmistakable. Every line of their posture points at Mace. Mace does not slow down. Supreme Chancellor, he says, without looking at Palpatine. Stand down your guard. Stand down, Palpatine says. Pleasantly, the way he says everything. The protectors lower their pikes. They fall into step 3 paces behind the group. Silent, patient, shadows that have chosen which direction to fall. Anakin leans toward Mace. Barely a breath, he just kept 2 witnesses to wherever we take him. Mace, equally quiet, not a glance, I know. Don't let him see that you know. They reach the Senate chamber blast doors at speed. The emergency convocation code Anakin sends from his comlink is already cycling when Bail Organa's signal comes through on a secure frequency. Someone tipped him. Someone who monitors the executive building's power consumption and noticed the emergency lighting and drew the correct conclusion. Bail Organa has been drawing correct conclusions about this government for years. Anakin takes half a second to be grateful for thorough men. The blast doors open. The chamber is enormous and entirely empty. The regular session concluded hours ago. The pods are retracted to their docking positions around the circumference of the vast oval, folded back like something sleeping. The central dais where the Chancellor's pod normally floats has been lowered to the floor. The acoustics of the place transform every footstep, 4 pairs of boots, 2 crimson armored protectors, 1 prisoner, into something that echoes longer than it should. As if the room is cataloging their arrival. The amber emergency lighting does something different here than it did in the corridors. In the corridors, it made everything feel recent. In here, in a chamber built to hold the weight of 1,000 years of democratic governance, the amber light makes everything feel ancient. As if this room has survived things before and is prepared to survive this. Palpatine is placed on the central dais, not his hover pod. The floor, the same level as the empty senator pods that ring the chamber on every side. The architecture of this room was designed so the Chancellor always looks down at the assembly. That design has been quietly reversed. He stands on the dais with 1 bandaged wrist and 2 red guards at his back, and does not appear to notice the distinction. Anakin moves to the dais control panel. His hands find the emergency convocation sequence. The broadcast will reach every Senate apartment, every comm in the district, every senator on Coruscant, which, in a crisis that has been building for weeks, is most of them. He begins the sequence, which leaves Mace Windu alone with Palpatine for 30 seconds. Neither speaks first. The silence between 2 beings of this particular magnitude carries its own weight. Then Palpatine, surveying the empty pods the way a man surveys something he has personally built, speaks. You knew he was dangerous. From the moment he arrived. Mace stands 4 meters away. His blade is deactivated. His hands are at his sides. Yes, he says, you should have expelled him the moment he reported his dreams. Palpatine does not look at Mace directly. He looks at the empty chamber, the retracted pods, the amber light falling across seats that have held civilizations. Instead, you kept him close and watched him. Like a bomb you thought you could defuse. Mace says nothing. You made him feel unwanted, unworthy, and perpetually observed. No cruelty in the voice. Simply the tone of someone describing conditions accurately. I showed him kindness. You created the vacancy, Master Windu. I merely filled the space you left empty. A pause, timed with the precision of a man who has delivered difficult truths for sport across decades. You cannot spend years treating a person as a threat and then be surprised when they seek out someone who doesn't. The chamber waits. The amber light falls across rows of empty chairs, across the dais where the most dangerous being in the galaxy stands bleeding and bound and still, somehow, managing to be the one conducting this conversation. Mace looks at him. When he speaks, it is very quiet, and costs something visible in the set of his jaw, I know. 2 words, said in front of no one except a Sith Lord, which means they will never be used as evidence and will never be publicly credited, and are therefore the truest thing Mace Windu has said in years. The admission of a man whose pride is the architecture of his life, dismantling 1 room of it in amber light, with the bodies still warm in the Chancellor's office above. Palpatine files them away without expression. From across the chamber, Anakin's voice, convocation sent. First arrivals in 4 minutes. They come quickly. Powerful people who have learned to move fast when summoned by emergency protocol, senators, aides, representatives of species that have held seats in this chamber for generations. Bail Organa is first through the blast doors. Mon Mothma beside him, which means they were already together when the signal came. Which means they have been in contact tonight about something that was already wrong before Anakin cut off a Sith Lord's hand. Anakin notes this and files it. Behind them, more voices. The particular urgency of people accustomed to authority confronting something that has no category in their experience. They move to their pods. They find their seats. They look at each other across the vast chamber and do what powerful people do in the first seconds of a crisis that has not yet been named, gather information before choosing a position. What is the Chancellor doing on the central dais? Why are there Jedi in the chamber at this hour? Why is his hand bandaged? Why do his eyes look like that? None of these questions are asked aloud yet. They hang in the amber light above several hundred confused and frightened people who run the Republic. And then, from above, through the dome of the Senate chamber, through the transparent steel that opens to the Coruscant sky, and the endless river of civilian traffic that has been flowing through the night as if the world is ordinary, the sound of something large and military descending. Not one. Several. The bass thrum of lot gunships in formation. A sound with a particular rhythm that no one who has heard it over a battlefield ever fully stops recognizing. The 501st Legion converging on the Senate district. Anakin hears it and does not look up. He knows that sound too. The battle is already 10 minutes old when Anakin's shuttle drops through the smoke layer above the temple. He can hear it before he can see it. The blaster fire bounced and multiplied by 3,000 years of stone architecture, arriving from every direction at once in a cathedral echo that makes individual shots sound like an orchestra of wrong things happening. The bass impact of at walkers on the courtyard, he knows that percussion from 100 deployments, and it has never been pointed at this building before. The high whistle of lot gunships strafing the upper spires. His gunships. His men. He lands in the upper hangar. The shuttle doors open. A Jedi Knight stands in the corridor with her blade up and her body sideways in the combat posture of someone who has been fighting for 10 minutes and has fully processed what that means for her ability to trust any new arrival. She is young. Not so young that she doesn't know how to hold the angle. Not so old that she doesn't still feel the fear in her hands. She sees Anakin Skywalker standing in the shuttle hatch. Everything the transmission said in those first fractured minutes of the battle has come through the same channel. Trust no one. The clones have turned. And Anakin Skywalker, she freezes. The silence between them lasts exactly as long as it needs to. Anakin keeps his hands where they are. His blade is unlit. He stays in the hatch. I'm on your side. His voice is flat and quiet and does not ask for anything. I know why you doubt that. I know what I've been. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. But I am here, and I am fighting alongside you, and that's the only proof I have right now. A long moment. Her blade lowers. Slightly. It's enough. He hears the youngling wing before he reaches it. The specific acoustic signature of a corridor held under pressure. 2 lightsaber hums working in tight defensive arcs. The rhythm of force barriers absorbing impact. The cadence of clone blaster fire against surfaces not designed to take it. A door at the far end. The sound on the other side of that door, small feet moving quickly, guided by someone who knows where the secondary passage goes. A Jedi Knight and 2 Padawans are holding the line. The Knight's blade work is precise, the Padawan's less so. One of them is bleeding from a graze above the eyebrow and fighting through it, which tells Anakin everything he needs to know about how long this has been going on. The 501st troopers pressing them are not performing cruelty. That is the part that makes it difficult to look at directly. They are executing an order they believe is correct, and that belief is not their own, and they do not know that. And Anakin knows all of this simultaneously while his blade comes up and he steps into the line. He does not deploy as a general. He does not issue commands or assess tactical geometry. He steps in front of the door and he makes himself large. Padawan, he says, without looking at the one bleeding. Left shoulder. You're dropping it. Bring it up and keep it there. He feels her adjust. His eyes stay forward. The troopers hit his defense and he takes it. Meets every shot coming at the door and redirects it into nothing. Not aggressive. Not advancing. Rooted. A wall that has decided not to move. Behind the door, the small feet slow. Almost through. Almost, and then a voice. Clear as anything through the noise, small and certain, carrying the particular quality of a child who trusts because they have not yet learned that trust is a risk, Master Skywalker. In another version of this night, those 2 words were a wound that did not close. The sound of what he was about to destroy, given a face and a voice, and he had kept walking. He does not think about the other version of this night. He takes 1 step wider. His defense expands. His blade covers another 60 degrees of the door. The feet reach the other end of the passage. The door holds. The main hall is controlled chaos, with Aayla Secura at the center of it, which means it is as controlled as the situation permits. She has 12 defenders positioned at load-bearing points, coordinating them with hand signals and short force-assisted communications that carry over the blaster fire. Her own blade moves with a cadence that looks fluid and is actually deeply mathematical. She is running 3 calculations per second that most Jedi would not attempt and making them appear natural. She is also bleeding from her left arm and has not slowed. She sees Anakin enter the hall, and for one precise moment her eyes do what everyone's eyes have done tonight. They measure him against the transmissions, against the hours, against what a clone commander told her 40 minutes ago about General Skywalker. Then, she makes a decision. North Corridor, she says, as though they have been working together for years. They keep probing it. I can't identify why they think it's the weak point. It's not the weak point, Anakin says. The colonnade behind it is. They're going to establish fire position there and flank the west defensive line from inside. Aayla absorbs this in the time it takes her to redirect a blaster bolt. How do you know their protocols? A beat. Just one. I designed them, Anakin says. The weight of that lands without drama, without ceremony, without Anakin adding a single word to qualify it. He designed the assault protocols currently being used against the people around him. He has known this since the moment he landed. He has not stopped moving long enough to sit with what that costs. He moves to the North Corridor before she can respond. The adjustment happens. The colonnade is held. The west defensive line does not fold. The battle shifts. It happens mid-battle, without announcement, without a pause in the fighting that would allow it. The blaster fire is continuous. The blade hums constant. The smoke from the Garden of Tranquility has reached the main hall and made the air taste of something that should not be burning. The particular taste of old wood that has stood in one place for longer than anyone alive can remember. And then every lightsaber in the temple hums at the same frequency. One note. Unplanned, unanimous, half a second, no more. Then normal sound returns, as immediately as it left. Aayla, moving between positions, beside a Padawan who has been fighting for 20 minutes and is still on his feet. Did you feel that? What was it? The Padawan says. She does not answer right away. She deflects a shot without looking at it. I don't know exactly. A pause, the genuine kind, reaching for language that does not yet exist. It feels like the right person is fighting on the right side. The end of the battle is not a victory. That is the important thing to understand about how it ends. It ends because the 501st Troopers, caught between 2 competing neural commands for too long, simply stop. Not all of them. Not at once, but in clusters, across the breach points, troopers lower their weapons and sit down. Some remove their helmets. They sit in the rubble of corridors and training rooms and look at their hands and at each other and at nothing in particular, and the expressions they carry have no category in any combat training manual. Some of them are crying. They do not appear to know why. The 501st Commander assesses his tactical situation and finds it incoherent, and sounds the recall. Orderly, professional, the pullback is not a rout, it is a unit that has encountered conditions outside its operating parameters and is withdrawing to re-establish baseline function. They will come back. Everyone still standing in this hall knows they will come back. But not tonight. 3 wings of the temple have serious structural damage. The Garden of Tranquility is burning, old wood, the kind that has stood for centuries, and it burns with a smell that enters the lungs and does not leave quickly. The smell of something that was supposed to outlast every person in this building. 11 Jedi have fallen. The number will be revised before morning. It will not go down. Anakin stands in the main hall. He is covered in debris, dust, and in blood that is not his own. A Padawan who fell near him, midway through the defense of the youngling wing, took a shot he could not redirect in time. He reached her 2 seconds later. He does not know if 2 seconds was the difference, or whether the difference was earlier, when he was somewhere else, being something else entirely. And the gap between what happened and what might have been prevented is not a calculation he can allow himself to complete right now. He has not stopped moving since he landed. He has not stopped long enough for what is sitting at the back of his chest to fully arrive. A hand finds his. He looks down. A youngling, 6 years old, perhaps 7. in robes that are too large for her in the way all youngling robes are too large, designed to be grown into. She does not look up at him. She does not speak. She stands beside him in the smoke, tasting air of a hall her order just barely held, and she holds his hand, and she looks at the same middle distance he is looking at. He does not move away. The tribunal has its own sound. Every Star Destroyer does, the specific resonance of its engine configuration, the harmonic of its hull metal under stress, the way its ventilation system cycles at a slightly different frequency than every other vessel in the fleet. After months aboard, Rex knows this ship the way he knows his own armor, by the feel of it against his body without having to look. He is standing on the bridge with Ahsoka when the chip fires. He will reconstruct it later, in the cargo bay, because understanding what happened is the only weapon available to him there. What it felt like in real time, two people trying to speak from the same throat at the same moment. One voice his, the other built from the same architecture as his voice, but not his. The way a clone's face is his face but not, the way 23 brothers can share identical features and still be entirely separate men. And underneath both voices, static, someone else's signal bleeding into the chip's frequency, introducing noise, fighting it for space in the same channel. 3 seconds. 3 seconds is almost nothing. 3 seconds is everything. His voice is changing before he registers it happening, Ahsoka. Something is wrong. Something is very wrong with me. I need you to. The chip fully engages. His voice goes flat. The warmth that lived in it between the words, the thing that made it Rex rather than CT-7567, drains out in the space between one syllable and the next. Force-sensitive combatant Tano. Target designated. By order of thee, he fights back. It is not a metaphor. He can feel the two signals pressing against each other inside his own skull, and he puts every year of himself he has against the thing trying to use his hands. Every battle, every brother, every morning he chose to get up and do the job, because the people beside him were worth doing it for. Ahsoka, run. She runs. She does not go far. That is the thing about Ahsoka Tano. She never goes far enough to be safe when someone she loves is not safe. The bridge erupts, not all at once. The chip's execution staggers across the tribunal's crew, the interference in the activation signal creating an uneven cascade that means some troopers fire before others, which means the first shots are aimed at where Jedi should be standing, which means Ahsoka has already moved by the time the first bolt arrives. Her two blades come up. White, the lighter, faster note of them against the percussion of clone blasters, creates something almost rhythmic in the acoustic chaos of the bridge, the particular sound of a smaller instrument holding its line against something much larger. She does not harm them. This is not a decision she makes in the moment. It is an axiom she has already lived inside for years, and it requires no re-examination now. These are her brothers. They are not choosing this. She will not use their suffering against them. Every shot she redirects away from people, away from consoles, into floor, ceiling, the spaces between. She uses the Force to lift 3 troopers simultaneously and places them carefully behind bulkhead sections where they will be disoriented but not damaged. She creates a Force barrier and moves 3 steps and creates another. The first barrier holds 6 seconds. She uses every one of them. She is buying time. She is buying enough time for Rex to reach a sealed room. She does not know yet if he made it. He made it. The cargo bay door sealed behind him 2 seconds before full chip activation locked his motor control. He heard it happen, the clunk of the mechanism, the sound of himself alone inside a pressurized container with nothing except what is already in his skull. He sits on the floor with his back against the door. What follows is not a fight the way the bridge was a fight. There is no opponent he can orient toward. The thing he is fighting is the language his own mind is speaking, and the only weapon against it is other language. Things he knows are true. Anchors to the version of himself that exists outside this moment. I know what you are, he says. To the bay. To himself. To the frequency sitting in his hypothalamus since before he could walk. Fives knew what you were. Fives died to warn us, and nobody listened. The chip surges. His own voice tries to become something else, eliminate the Force sensitive. Target Tano is designated hostile. Execute. His hand hits the cargo bay wall. The impact travels up his arm and into his shoulder, and the pain is specific and real and his. I know who I am. The chip again. The flat command voice. Building. Target Tano must be neutralized. Resistance to standing orders constitutes. Rex goes quieter. Not weaker. The desperation burns off, and what is left underneath is something older and more patient than desperation. The voice of a man who has survived things by refusing to hurry. Ahsoka, he says. Just the name, out loud in the sealed bay. Kix, Jesse, Hardcase, Echo, Fives, the chip presses. These are real names. His voice is steady now. Completely steady. These are people I know. You cannot manufacture the way they laugh. You cannot copy the way Fives argued about everything, and you cannot make a regulation that covers the moment Jesse said something that made the whole squad lose composure for 30 seconds in a briefing. These things happened. They are in my memory, and they are mine, and you do not get to take them. The chip does not stop, but it does not win. He sits in the bay in the stalemate between himself and the thing in his skull, and he holds his own name like a man holding a hatch closed against pressure from the other side. And he waits. The bay door opens. Ahsoka finds him on the floor. She has a cut above her left montrail that she has not attended to and will not attend to until this is resolved. She takes in the situation in a single look, the way he is sitting, the tension across his shoulders, the particular stillness of a man operating at the absolute edge of his own capacity, and she does not ask whether he is all right. She sits down across from him on the cargo bay floor and reaches into the Force. Not into his mind. The distinction matters. She has no interest in what lives inside Rex's thoughts and would not enter there without invitation. What she reaches for is the living force she can sense in him, the presence of him as a living thing, the specific texture of Rex that has been recognizable to her since the first day they fought beside each other, as identifiable as a voice. And there, nested in that presence, a foreign thing. Cold, architectural, occupying space it was not built to occupy. She puts the force around it the way you put your hands around something that is bleeding in press. Not removing it. She does not have the surgical precision without equipment she does not have. But holding the signal. Suppressing it. Applying pressure that interrupts the transmission between chip and command center for as long as she can maintain the focus. Like holding a wound closed from the outside. It will not hold forever. It holds now. Rex's shoulders drop half an inch. He releases a breath he has been holding longer than he knew. Ahsoka, he says. I know, she says. The tribunal's comm systems pull in frequencies from across the galaxy, routing them through speakers that neither of them moves to silence. Unit cohesion has failed. I repeat, unit cohesion has failed. / my men won't fire on each other. Requesting command clarification. / Clone Commander Cody is non-responsive. Cannot verify execution of / General Kenobi status unknown. Signal lost. / Order 66 execution rate at approximately 60% of projected, interference source unidentified. 60% is catastrophic. It means thousands of Jedi dead or dying across 100 worlds in the time it took Rex to reach this bay. But 40% means something else. 40% means Jedi who should have died in the first 20 minutes are alive, still choosing what the next 20 minutes are going to be. The numbers belong to no one yet. They are just numbers in the dark. Ahsoka makes her decision without announcing it, because she is 19 years old and has been making decisions that affect entire missions since she was 14, and she has learned that the announcing is usually less important than the doing. She cannot save every clone on this ship from himself. Some of them will recover when the stalemate resolves. Some won't. She can stay here and try to tip the balance by degrees, or she can go to the place where the decisions affecting every clone in this galaxy are being made. She goes to Coruscant. Rex stands beside her when she sends the comlink signal through the chaos of military frequencies, through the interference and the garbled voices and the static of a galaxy in collapse. She finds the Jedi Temple emergency frequency and holds it. "This is Ahsoka Tano," she says. "I'm coming in. Don't shoot." The line holds for a moment. Then a voice, rough at the edges, carrying something that sounds like it has been waiting a long time to set down a weight it has been carrying alone. "I wasn't going to," Anakin says. 400 senators arrived inside the hour. The rest are still coming. The Senate chamber's acoustics were designed to amplify the human voice into something approaching authority. What they amplify tonight is confusion. 400 versions of it, in 400 languages, layered over each other in the amber emergency light that has replaced the chamber's normal white, making every face look like something lit from underground. Senate security officers at every entrance. No pods raised. Everything at floor level. Bail Organa and Mon Mothma stand at the chamber coordinator station, directing arrivals with the practiced efficiency of people who have spent years managing crises that officially were not crises. They ask no questions yet. They get people seated. Questions can happen once everyone is seated. Palpatine stands on the central dais. His wrist is dressed in field bandaging that does not match the quality of his robes. His face is exactly as it was in the executive building. The deformed cartography of it, the yellow eyes, the particular quality of stillness that belongs to something that has been waiting longer than most species live. The hoverpod that normally elevates the chancellor above the assembly floor is absent. He stands at the same level as the senators. He does not appear to notice the difference. Mace Windu addresses the chamber first. The particular note of his voice tonight is not what the Senate is accustomed to from Jedi. There is no authority in it. There is exhaustion, and underneath the exhaustion something harder, the honesty of a man who spent 20 years missing something and is now, in front of 400 witnesses, asking to be trusted about the very thing he missed. "What I am about to tell this body will be difficult to accept," he says. "I ask for 30 minutes of your silence. After that, every question you have will be answered. But you must hear this first." He presents 3 categories of evidence. The first is the Sith connection. Palpatine's concealed lightsaber, the weapon itself, recovered from the executive building floor, placed on the dais in front of the full Senate, with its hilt visible to the gallery. The Force lightning Palpatine generated when the political masquerade dissolved. The specific knowledge of Sith lore he demonstrated in private conversation with Anakin across 14 years of cultivated meetings. Mace acknowledges, without being asked, that portions of the corroborating evidence were first identified through separatist intelligence archives. He says it before Palpatine can. It costs him something visible to say it first. The second is the inhibitor chips. Anakin presents this. Not as a general briefing a military body, as a man translating something technical into something a senator can take home with them tonight. He describes the chips in plain language, where they sit, what they do, what happens when they are activated, why no clone knows he carries one. He does not perform outrage, he describes conditions. The third is personal testimony. Anakin Skywalker in front of the full Senate, describing what 14 years of deliberate cultivation feels like from the inside. The private meetings in this building, the careful distance maintained between him and the Jedi Council. The Darth Plagueis legend offered over dinner like something precious. The nightmares of Padmé's death. The manipulation of his fear. And 2 days ago, Count Dooku, kneeling and disarmed on the invisible hand, and the blade Palpatine ordered Anakin to bring down. He says it plainly. He says it once. He does not make himself sound like a victim or a hero. He describes what happened. When he finishes, 400 senators are very quiet. Palpatine waits for the quiet to reach its fullest extent. Then he speaks. He does not raise his voice. He does not use the register of the chancellor delivering policy. He uses the voice of a man who is in physical pain and managing it with dignity, who is deeply, personally saddened by the position in which he finds himself. Senators of the Republic. Not Chancellor, not Supreme Chancellor. The acknowledgement of their authority placed first. I am a man who has been physically attacked, mutilated, and dragged before this body by armed individuals operating under no legal authority of this Senate. A pause, not for effect, but as if gathering himself. The individual making these accusations is a Jedi general who, by his own admission, came to my office tonight to interfere with the legitimate governance of this republic. The evidence of these neural chips was sourced from separatist intelligence databases, the databases of our enemy, whose sophistication and misinformation campaigns this body has documented extensively. He lets that settle, and the testimony you have just heard is from a young man who claims he was systematically manipulated by me over 14 years. If we accept that claim as true, and I understand its emotional weight, then every military order he executed as a general of your army was the product of a compromised mind. He lets that settle too. The chamber has no clean response. 3 minutes ago the votes to detain were building in the room. Now the room is doing what rooms do when certainty is removed. It argues with itself. In 200 languages simultaneously. I am prepared to cooperate fully with any properly constituted legal inquiry, Palpatine continues, warm and measured, as I have always cooperated, as I have always served this republic with every instrument at my disposal. I am asking only that this body exercise the same due process it grants to every accused being in every system under its governance. He stops. He has said exactly enough, and not one word more. Bail Organa's voice cuts across the erupting chamber before the noise can establish itself as the room's dominant condition, point of order. Senator Organa of Alderaan. The procedural phrase reduces 400 simultaneous conversations to something closer to silence. Proposal: immediate medical verification. If these neural implants exist, they can be confirmed by any Republic medical droid currently present in this building. We do not require separatist intelligence. We do not require Jedi testimony. We require a scanner and 5 minutes. Seconded, Mon Mothma says, from 3 pods away. The vote to conduct immediate medical verification passes, 612 to 235. A Coruscant Guard trooper volunteers. He is brought to the central dais by 2 Senate security officers and stands very still while the medical droid's scanner hums around the base of his skull. The soft tone of the equipment is the quietest sound the chamber has produced all night. The droid's voice has no inflection designed to prepare anyone for what it is about to say. Confirmed. Foreign neural implant detected in the hypothalamic region, bilateral, design schematic, does not match any registered Republic medical device. Cross-referenced against provided schematics, match confirmed. Estimated function per schematic analysis, behavioral override activated by external command signal. Override scope, total suppression of loyalty programming and replacement with single directive behavioral instruction. Reversibility, surgical removal only. The chamber is completely silent. The trooper looks straight ahead. He does not look at his own hands. Palpatine makes his last move. He has been watching Anakin since the medical droid began speaking, measuring something with the patience of a man who has never stopped calculating. When the silence reaches the point where it is about to become a verdict, he speaks directly across the dais. Anakin. Just the name. The voice of every private conversation across 14 years. Whatever else you believe about me, you came to me because you loved your wife, because you were terrified of losing her. That fear was real. That love is real. I offered you something the Jedi Order never would, a path to keep what you love. Whatever I am, whatever you believe I am, that offer was genuine. Anakin has been quiet through the entire proceeding, through Mace's presentation, through his own testimony, through the medical confirmation. He has been standing to one side of the dais, not moving. He steps forward now. You never had the power to save anyone. His voice carries without being raised. Darth Plagueis didn't either. You told me a legend about a dead man's ability to cheat death because it was the one thing you could offer that I couldn't verify. My wife is alive because she is strong. Because she chose to fight for the Republic she believes in. Because she is the bravest person I have ever known. Not because of anything you did or could have done. A pause. I don't need your power. Because I just saved the Jedi Temple, stopped an army, and brought you here in chains. And I did all of it, with nothing but the Force and a partner who doesn't trust me. His eyes do not leave Palpatine's. Imagine what I could do with actual support. A beat. You are the biggest lie I ever believed. And I'm done. Bail Organa calls for the vote. To formally detain the former Supreme Chancellor. To convene a special judicial committee under full Senate authority. To begin. The voting boards light across the gallery in sequence. 847 to 212. The applause that follows is ragged and uncertain, the sound of people who are relieved and frightened simultaneously and cannot fully separate the two. It is not the applause of a clean victory. It is the applause of a room that has just agreed, by a margin of 635, to look directly at something it has been avoiding for a very long time. From outside the dome, barely audible beneath the chamber noise, gunships still circling the district. Still there. Still waiting. The procedural delay lasts 12 minutes. The Senate Security Council is arguing about jurisdiction, which committee oversees the detention of a former Supreme Chancellor who may also be a Sith Lord. Whether that falls under civil law or military law, or some emergency category that requires invention on the spot. Legal staff are being summoned from apartments throughout the district, arriving still fastening their robes. Someone has raised the question of whether the vote itself was procedurally valid, given that emergency lighting protocols may have affected quorum thresholds. On the central dais, Palpatine waits. He has been waiting. That is the important thing to understand about these 12 minutes. He has not been enduring them. He has not been experiencing defeat while the Senate processes around him. He has been, for 12 minutes, gathering data. The distance from the dais to the nearest maintenance service corridor, 22 meters. He identified it in the first 90 seconds, when they brought him in and positioned him, and Mace took his station to the left. The maintenance corridor's door is not locked. It cannot be locked, emergency fire regulations, but it is closed. Closed and unremarkable. The kind of door that becomes invisible by being exactly where a door is supposed to be. The Senate security officer's attention rotation, every 47 seconds, a scan to the left. 3 seconds of right side blind spot. He has confirmed this pattern 4 times. The position of every lightsaber in the room, mace at 2 meters to his left, blade deactivated at the hip. 2 temple guards near the main entrance at 40 meters. No other blades in the immediate vicinity. The red guards are behind him. Their force pikes are raised, but they are programmed to protect him. When he moves, they will move with him, not to stop him, to follow. The force attack, prepared. He has not used it in years. It does not require practice. It requires only the will to cause harm, which he has in quantities that have never once been in short supply. He is not afraid. He has not been afraid since the moment Anakin's blade fell, because in that moment, Palpatine understood exactly what kind of situation he was in, and exactly what it would require, and exactly how long he would need to wait. He is a spider that has been pretending to be a fly. Patience is the oldest of his disciplines. The Security Council is still arguing about committees. He waits 12 seconds more. The force attack is not a sound the way blaster fire is a sound. It is what happens when the dark side intersects with the nervous system directly. A subsonic pulse layered with something that occupies a frequency the conscious mind cannot locate or defend against, because the frequency arrives not from outside the skull, but as though it was always inside it. Below language. Below hearing. Something older than both. Mace staggers. 1 step. His hand goes to the wall. 1 step is enough. The Senate security officer drops. The red guards do not attack. They never attack. They shield. When their principal moves, they move with him. Palpatine tears the force bond on his remaining wrist in a single application of strength, so sudden that the restraint line does not bend. It separates, end to end, as if it was never one piece. He moves. He covers 22 meters in 4 seconds. The maintenance corridor door opens. He is gone in 5. 6 seconds for the attack to clear from Mace's vision. 8 seconds to reach the maintenance corridor and get through the door. The corridor extends in 2 directions, both empty. No footsteps retreating. No sound of a door closing further along either passage. The silence of a route that connects to 40 other routes and was built specifically to allow rapid, unmonitored movement between the Senate building's levels. Mace stands in the corridor and breathes. The breathing is controlled. The control is deliberate. There is something at the back of his chest that he cannot afford to examine right now, the specific weight of having held the most dangerous being in the galaxy in custody and losing him in the 47-second gap between two procedural arguments about committee jurisdiction. He raises his comlink. Windu to Skywalker. He's out. Static, then, how long? 30 seconds. A pause. He planned that. Anakin's voice is very quiet. Not angry. Quiet in the way of someone who has confirmed something they suspected and wish they had suspected sooner. The trial was never for his benefit. He just needed a room with maintenance access and 2 guards who answer to him. A longer pause. Yes, Mace says. 2 words that cost the same as the 2 he said earlier tonight, in a different room with a different prisoner watching him say them. I know where he's going, Anakin says. The comlink closes. The broadcasts begin within the hour. Senate Security Archive footage has been accessed by someone. It will take 3 days to determine who authorized the release, and longer still to determine whether that release was deliberate or compromised, and what the galaxy sees, on every news channel, on every public terminal, on every personal device connected to the HoloNet. Is this a chancellor's office with shattered transparasteel and 3 dead Jedi Masters on the floor? A red lightsaber, separated from its wielder, a handcuffed, deformed man being escorted through a Senate corridor by 2 Jedi. The commentary arrives in waves, competing, none of it settled, reporting that the Supreme Chancellor has been charged with serious offenses by the Jedi Order, Unslek. Footage from the Senate Security Archives appears to show what some senators are calling a coup attempt by the Jedi, others are saying the Chancellor himself was the clone troopers attacking Jedi installations across multiple systems, the Jedi Temple on Coruscant is reporting significant. The information moves faster than comprehension. The galaxy is watching and does not yet know what it is watching and is beginning to understand, in the fragmented way of public reckoning, that the man who governed it for more than a decade may have been something else entirely, and that whatever that something else is, it is currently at large. Below, far below, level 500, polished, recirculated air. The ambient hum of concentrated power made architectural. Level 200, commerce and crowding, species mixing languages and the particular acoustic texture of beings who share space without having chosen each other. Level 1313, loud and humid and industrial, the sound of cargo processing, liquid cycling through large pipes, a dozen dialects operating at full volume simultaneously. Below that, ancient stone. The pre-Republic surface of a planet that has not seen natural light in centuries. Water moving through drainage channels carved before the Senate existed, before the Republic existed, before anyone alive was born. Electronics crackling at the edges of signal range, comlinks falling into static as the interference from something deeper disrupts every frequency that passes through it. The ambient noise does not fall to silence, it falls to something geological. The sound of a planet breathing, the sound of mass and pressure and time, indifferent to everything that has been built on top of them. A figure moves through a crowd of beings who do not ask questions. This is the contract of these levels, mutual non-observation. The social compact that keeps everyone alive who has survived here long enough to understand it. Nobody sees the robed elder with the ruined face and the yellow eyes and the one bandaged wrist. Nobody sees him, because seeing him would require acknowledging that he exists in this place, and acknowledgement is not the survival strategy that has kept anyone on this level through this many years. He stops at a door. A Doug leans against the wall beside it, the particular variety of professional who is defined entirely by what he has never been caught doing. I need access to the sub-levels. The voice is unrecognizable, not the cultured Naboo accent that has addressed the Senate 10,000 times, not the grandfatherly warmth that spent 14 years cultivating a boy from Tatooine into a weapon. Something older than both of those things, something that was always underneath the performance, waiting to have a use again. Below 1313. The Doug looks at him, at the yellow eyes, at the quality of stillness that belongs to something that has been patient since before this city's foundations were poured. That costs, the Doug says. Palpatine looks at him. I am aware, he says, of what things cost. He lands in the temple's upper hangar in a stolen separatist shuttle, and the temple guards let him through, because the Force tells them to, and because Obi-Wan Kenobi has a face that belongs in this building even when everything else has stopped belonging anywhere. He walks through the temple, and every Jedi he passes turns to look. Not at his rank, not at his blade. At the quality of presence he carries, the weight of someone who has been present since the beginning of all of this, and has come back, again, to stand in the place where he started. Every Jedi in this building has survived something tonight. Obi-Wan survived his version and came back. There is something in that which cannot be named precisely, but can be felt entirely. He finds Anakin in the main hall. The reunion is not tearful. They are Jedi, mostly the particular restraint of two people who have processed the same catastrophe from different positions and have not yet agreed on what to do with everything they need to say. I felt something through the Force, Obi-Wan says. A shift. I thought, a pause. He starts again. I was afraid I'd lost you to it. You almost did. A beat. I know. And I should have. He stops, restructures. I should have seen what was being done to you. I should have found a way to. Don't. Not harsh. Simply honest. We don't have time. And I know where he's going. How? A pause that carries the complicated weight of everything it contains, because he told me about it. He was cultivating me. He showed me the dark side's geography because he wanted me to be comfortable in it. Obi-Wan absorbs this. Then let's use what he gave you. The descent takes 40 minutes. The acoustic world transforms at each level as though the planet itself is changing register. Level 500. Polished, quiet, recycled air, the distant echo of their footsteps in corridors, built to convey authority. Level 200. Infrastructure, pipes, machinery, and the voices of beings who live and work in the parts of the city where the wealthy never go. A different language from the Senate's language, more honest in its noise. Level 1313. Loud and humid and industrial. The sound of cargo processing, liquid cycling through large pipes, a dozen dialects operating at full volume simultaneously. It smells like the Republic's engine room, Obi-Wan says as they pass through. Below 1313, the sound world compresses. Stone absorbs differently than manufactured material. Their footsteps go muffled, shortened, return to them without the echo that would locate them in space. Water runs somewhere in channels they cannot see, through roots older than the building above them. Their comlinks crackle and produce static, and then produce silence, and then nothing at all. The light source changes, not illumination but bioluminescence, organisms coating ancient stone that have never been exposed to anything from above. A cold blue-green that shows them shapes without colors. The shrine. Complete silence. Weighted. Not empty. The dark side does not pool here the way it pools in places where violence occurred. It pools here the way water pools in the lowest point of a landscape, because this is simply where it goes. 1,000 years of gravity. Obi-Wan feels it as pressure behind the eyes, a heaviness in the chest that is not physical, the sensation of standing in weather that does not want him there. Anakin feels something else, something more familiar, the particular recognition of encountering a smell from childhood, the way memory lives in the body before the mind can name it. He has stood in air that tasted like this and called it power and not questioned the taste. He questions it now. He meditates here, Anakin says quietly as they enter. Has for years. He never told me exactly where it was, but the description was specific enough. The dark side is very strong here. I know. That's why he chose it. Palpatine is standing in the center of the shrine when they find him, not hiding. Waiting, he has had time to prepare. A force pike cached in the shrine's alcoves, taken from a red guard who followed him to the end of that particular loyalty. He has drawn the dark side around him the way a man draws a coat closed against cold, and on this ground, with this preparation, and with the shrine amplifying everything he carries, He is formidable in a way the Senate chamber never allowed him to be. He looks at them without speaking first. He is assessing. Then, I wondered which of you would be more afraid. Neither, Obi-Wan says. A thin smile. The expression of a man who does not believe he has heard the truth, but is willing to let the speaker have it for the moment. Brave words. In a place like this, the fight is intimate in the way that fights in small stone rooms always are. No room for distance, no room for the tactical geometry that makes open ground combat legible. Only three beings in an enclosed space attempting to resolve an irresolvable problem through whatever their bodies have left. Obi-Wan's blade moves in tight, circular arcs. He does not attack, he neutralizes. Every angle Palpatine opens, Obi-Wan closes. Every swing redirected, absorbed, returned to nothing. Fighting him is like fighting a surface that offers no purchase. When Obi-Wan closes an angle, Anakin opens one. When Palpatine pivots toward Anakin, Obi-Wan is already covering the line he vacated. This is not strategy in the moment. This is 20 years of fighting beside each other expressing itself without discussion. The hammer and the shield, each knowing exactly what the other will do without looking. Palpatine finds this, for the first time in his long experience, genuinely difficult to address. He opens the floor. An ancient mechanism in the shrine's foundation, a weight-triggered stone plate he discovered years ago and left undisturbed for exactly this purpose. The slabs shift. A gap opens. The drop below it, invisible in the bioluminescent light. Which means bottomless in every way that matters. Obi-Wan is closest to the edge. He goes over. One sharp intake of breath. A scrape of boot on stone. Then the particular silence of a body suspended in air. Anakin's hand closes on his wrist. The stone edge bites into Anakin's arm from elbow to shoulder as he takes the full weight. His breath leaves him in a single locked grunt. He holds. He does not let go. He hauls Obi-Wan back up by degrees, by centimeters, by the specific application of everything in his body and the force behind it, until Obi-Wan's feet find the floor again. They have 4 seconds before Palpatine is on them. They use all 4 to get their blades back up. Force lightning, enhanced by the shrine's concentration of dark side energy, hits Anakin's blade and conducts. Not cleanly. The energy moves through the metal and into his hands and up his arms and behind his eyes, and for a moment the shrine goes white. Obi-Wan steps in front of him without looking at him. He positions himself between Palpatine and Anakin's recovery, and he holds that position, blade absorbing what comes, for exactly 5 seconds. 5 seconds is what Anakin needs. The Force maelstrom arrives next, shrine debris, stone fragments, Sith artifacts from the alcoves, carved obelisks that have sat undisturbed for centuries, all of it lifted and moving simultaneously. The air fills with the sound of stone in motion in a confined space, a grinding percussion that leaves no frequency unoccupied. Both Jedi deflect and advance through it, slower now, but steady. Moving forward through the debris and the noise and the dark side pressure that is thickest here at the shrine's center. Not because they are stronger, because they have not once considered stopping. Palpatine reaches for what he has always reached for when every other argument fails, Anakin. Your wife is in labor, right now, without you. His voice carries through the maelstrom without effort, a voice trained for chambers far larger than this. The stress on her heart, I can sense it even from here. With my death, that knowledge dies too. I was the only one who could have. She doesn't need you. He cuts across mid-sentence, not raised. Almost calm. The calm of someone who has found the bottom of something and stopped falling. She never did. I needed to believe she did. That was different. Palpatine reaches for Force lightning and Obi-Wan's blade catches it. He reaches for another surge, and Anakin is already too close, close enough that any broad attack would reach its source before its target. He has exhausted himself in a way he has not been exhausted since before Anakin was born. He had forgotten what exhaustion felt like. He is remembering it now, in every extremity. Force-enhanced restraints close on his remaining wrist, anchored to the stone floor. He does not try to break them. He has already calculated the probability and found it insufficient. Anakin stands over him. The dark side pools around them, both in the shrine's deepest corner. the most concentrated darkness on the planet, the accumulated pressure of 1,000 years of Sith intent pooling in this specific place. Anakin stands in it the way a man stands in weather he has learned to recognize, present, unchanged, more himself in this moment than he has been in any moment he can name. "This is what you wanted to make me," he says, quietly, without cruelty. The statement of something simply observed, and you couldn't even survive it yourself. The transport ascends through levels that have become familiar in the wrong direction. Below, stone and bioluminescence and the shrine's diminished quiet. Above, the city returning to itself in increments. Industrial sounds giving way to commerce, giving way to the particular hum of civic infrastructure operating as if nothing has happened, because most of it does not yet know. Palpatine sits against the transport wall with one wrist anchored to a restraint bar by force-bonded cuffs that Mace personally attached and personally checked. He has not spoken since the shrine. He watches the comm panel with the attention of something that is always learning and never stops. Anakin and Obi-Wan sit across from each other, the first quiet they have shared in hours. "How long did you know," Obi-Wan asks, "that he was a Sith?" "A few hours before his office. He told me himself." "Why didn't you come to me?" Anakin looks at his hands, the same hands that caught Obi-Wan over the drop in the shrine, the same hands that severed a lightsaber arm and sent 3 signals into the dark and held the Force against the most concentrated darkness on the planet. "I was afraid of what the Council would do when they found out I'd been keeping his confidence. And I thought I needed something from him that I couldn't get anywhere else." "Padmé," Obi-Wan says. Not an accusation. Recognition. The visions. Her dying. "I didn't know how to tell you I was terrified. I thought telling you meant admitting I was failing." Obi-Wan is quiet for a moment. The particular quiet of someone choosing words with the care they deserve. "Anakin, if you had told me any of this, if you had come to me with those visions, with that fear..." He stops. Starts again. "I would have told you not to feel them. Because that's what I was taught, and that would have been wrong. A beat. We failed you. The order. Me, we taught you to suppress the things that made you most human instead of helping you carry them safely. I don't know if it would have changed tonight, but I know it was wrong. Not forgiveness, not absolution. 2 people who survived something catastrophic and are beginning, carefully, with the precise caution of people who have damaged things before, to understand what happened." "What did you do?" Obi-Wan asks, after a silence. "In the shrine. At the end. I felt something happen, and then it was gone." Anakin considers how to answer this. He has been considering it since it happened, and has not arrived at language that fully fits. The dark side nexus. The pooled energy he cultivated there across decades. When we had him restrained, when there was nothing left to fight, I felt what it needed. Not what I wanted to do with it, what it needed. A pause. Like knowing how a room should be arranged. I just moved what was wrong to where it belongs. Obi-Wan absorbs this carefully. "Balance," he says. "I think so." "Yes," Anakin looks up. "It costs something. I can feel where it went through me. I'll feel it for a while. But the shrine is just stone now. Ancient stone. Nothing pooling in it anymore." A longer silence. The transport continues ascending. The city outside the viewport slowly brightens. "That's the prophecy," Obi-Wan says quietly. Not a question. "Isn't it? Not what anyone imagined it would look like." Anakin doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. From the comm panel, broadcast fragments cutting through the transport's own frequency, emergency powers formally revoked by unanimous vote of the Security Council, / clone inhibitor chip removal programs to begin at all GAR facilities. Senator Organa announces a separatist peace negotiation initiative, / the Jedi Order releases a formal statement confirming the detention of Darth Sidious. Against the wall, Palpatine listens. He says nothing. He files everything. Even now. The council chamber at dawn. Holographic masters fill the ring of seats, Yoda from Kashyyyk, green and warm behind him. Wookiee silhouettes visible in forest light that has never been touched by what happened tonight. Aayla Secura in person, with her arm dressed and her posture unchanged. Mace at the head, as always. The seats that are empty will be empty for a long time. The report is given. When it concludes, the silence in the chamber runs longer than any the Council has held in living memory. A body that makes decisions for a living, sitting with one it cannot immediately make. Mace speaks first. Skywalker was right. He does not look for a gentler beginning. There isn't one. About Palpatine, about the chips, about the danger being assembled around us while we refuse to see it. Everything he told us tonight was true, and we were not willing to hear it. Silence. Yoda's holographic image is very still. When he speaks, his voice carries 9 centuries arriving at a reckoning they should have reached sooner. Wrong we were. In our caution. In our distance. Not from the Force. From him. We saw the danger in him and kept him close to watch it. We did not see that watching is not the same as knowing. A pause in which the entire Order's relationship with its own doctrine sits exposed. Teach us. This night has. At too great a cost. Another silence. Then Mace turns to Anakin directly. In front of the full council, in the chamber where Anakin has been watched and measured and found insufficient for 14 years. He says it here because here is where it cannot be unsaid. For years I said I did not trust you. That wasn't entirely honest. I was afraid of you. I was afraid of what I saw in you. And I chose to treat that fear as a reason to keep you at a distance rather than a reason to help you through whatever was feeding it. He does not look away while he says it. That is the important part. I am saying this now, in this room, in front of this council, so it cannot be unsaid. What you did tonight, not the fighting, not the evidence, not any single action, the choice you made in that office. A pause. I don't believe I could have made it. I am grateful that you could. Anakin is quiet for a long moment. When he speaks it, is without anger, without vindication. He is too tired for either, and neither would be honest enough for this room. I wish you'd been afraid of Palpatine earlier. I understand why you weren't. He never let you see the real version of him. A beat. Neither did I. No more. The room receives it without adding anything. It is exactly enough. He arrives at her apartments as Coruscant's artificial night is turning toward something that functions as dawn, the city's light shifting from the blue-black of deep hours toward something warmer. Not sunlight exactly, but the city's own approximation of it, the thing it has learned to produce in place of the real thing. The door opens before he reaches it. She is in labor. He knew this was possible. The timing, the stress of the night, the particular cruelty of a universe that does not pause its processes for other events. Medical droids move through the apartment with quiet efficiency. Dorm is here, stationed at the doorway with the expression of someone who has not slept and will not sleep and has no intention of saying so. He crosses the room and takes Padmé's hand. She looks at him. She has been looking at him for years, across Senate chambers and diplomatic functions and the private margins that existed between everything else, and she has always read him accurately. She reads him now. She does not ask for the full account of the last several hours because she can see it in his face, and she knows which details will matter later and which ones matter right now. You came back, she says. I always come back. A pause. The medical droid moves past them without registering the conversation as relevant to its function. Tell me the truth. What happened? The galaxy almost ended, Anakin says. And then, it didn't. She looks at him with the particular intelligence of someone who has navigated the Senate for a decade, the ability to receive incomplete information and understand exactly how incomplete it is, and ask the one question the incomplete information cannot answer. Were you the reason it didn't? A long moment. The honest answer is complicated in ways that will take years to explain fully. He finds the part of it that is true and immediate. I stop myself from being the reason it did. A pause. I don't know if that's the same thing. Padmé's hand tightens on his. To me it is. Sound out, a medical droid's quiet, rhythmic beeping, and through the window the sound of Coruscant finding its way toward dawn. The twins are born at dawn. Luke first, Leia 40 seconds after. Both of them announce their arrival with the particular fury of beings who have just encountered the concept of cold air and found it entirely objectionable. The medical droids note the time, the vital signs, the weight, the health markers, all of them good, all of them better than good. Anakin holds them both. He has been in 9 encounters tonight that could have ended differently. He has not cried in any of them. His hands were steady at the terminal when he sent 3 signals into the dark. His voice was controlled in the executive building and the Senate chamber and the shrine. He did not cry when Obi-Wan went over the edge and he caught him. He did not cry when Palpatine tried to use Padmé against him and he found the bottom of that particular fear and stood on it. He is crying now. He doesn't notice. Luke Anakin Skywalker. Leia Amidala Skywalker. Both names. Both parents. Carried openly. Because there is no reason for secrecy, no empire requiring shadows to hide in, no reason to be anything other than what they are. In the hallway outside the room, Obi-Wan Kenobi stands at the window. He arrived 3 minutes ago and has not knocked. He is giving them their moment and will give them as long as it takes. He looks at this family that almost didn't exist, at these 2 small beings who carry both sides of the Force in their blood, and the depth of his relief is in what he chooses not to say. He stands there. He watches. It is enough. Across Coruscant and across the galaxy, the morning begins to build what the night destroyed. Clone Commander Rex coordinates the Republic-wide chip removal program from a medical station in the Senate district. His voice on the broadcast is steady and practical, the way Rex's voice is always steady and practical, even when his entire understanding of what he is has been restructured in the space of 12 hours. The program begins voluntary. Legislation is already being drafted to make it mandatory. The process will take months. He says this as if months is simply how long it takes, and he intends to be present for all of them. The Separatist Council still exists, and with it the Confederate military that Palpatine spent a decade building as his counterweight. But its foundations were fracturing before the crisis even began. Count Dooku died on the invisible hand 2 days ago. Killed on Palpatine's order by Anakin's blade, the Sith Lord discarding his apprentice the moment the larger design required a different instrument. Without Dooku on one side and Palpatine directing both sides, the Confederacy of Independent Systems is a body without a head on either end. Senator Amidala's peace block moves immediately. The war will not end this week. The wounds of 3 years do not close in a morning. But for the first time, a path toward its end exists that does not require either side to surrender, only to recognize that the war was never theirs to fight. In a detention facility whose location is not publicly disclosed, Palpatine represents himself at his first procedural hearing. Even one-handed. Even in a cell. He is the most extraordinary presence in the room, and everyone in the room knows it. The outcome of his tribunal is not in question. What he will do with every moment of the process is another matter entirely. On Utapau, General Grievous remains at large. He survived the night because Obi-Wan abandoned the hunt when Anakin's signal reached him. A choice that saved Obi-Wan's life when the Order 66 signal reached Utapau's clone garrison moments later, but left the cyborg general breathing. He is somewhere. He is mobile. He will need to be dealt with. The galaxy does not become a clean and safe place overnight. It never has. The morning simply gives it more light to see what still needs to be done. Anakin stands before the council one last time. He is calm. He has known what he is going to say since before the twins were born, since before the shrine, since before the executive building, since the moment in his vision when he saw everything he would become and chose something else. I'm going to be a husband and a father. Those are the most important jobs in any universe, and I want to do them well. The way I've been living doesn't make that possible. Mace's voice carries no reproach. Only the careful tone of institutional record, the Order's position on attachment, hasn't changed. I know. I hope it changes. I hope what happened last night helps the conversation happen differently. He looks at Mace directly. Not defiance. Something more honest than defiance. But I can't wait for the conversation to finish. A beat. I'd like to remain available to the Republic. Without rank. Without formal mandate. Just available if something happens that I'm uniquely positioned to address. Yoda's holographic voice from Kashyyyk, unhurried. Carrying the weight of genuine consideration, the Sovereign Protector arrangement. Ancient it is, this role. Chosen by circumstance, bound by conscience only. Think carefully, you should. I have. A silence that holds the entire night in it. Mace, who does not trust easily. Yoda, who has governed this order for centuries. Aayla Secura, who fought beside him in the temple's main hall and knows what he is at his best. All of them in a circle, looking at the boy who arrived in this chamber at 9 years old and is leaving it as something the prophecy never quite described. Yoda speaks, "Go you must then, if your path this is. Closed, no door is. Return you may, in your own time, on your own terms." Anakin bows, not the formal Jedi bow, the one that is an institution greeting an institution. Something more personal than that. The bow of a man who is grateful for what a place gave him and honest about what it couldn't. Then, he leaves. The temple garden. The oldest section, the part that survived. Stone benches worn smooth by centuries of use. The dry basin of a fountain that stopped running sometime in the night. Dawn light coming through the gaps in the upper spires at an angle that turns everything it touches briefly gold. Obi-Wan sits on one of the benches. He has been here since the council session ended, which means he knew Anakin would come here, which means 20 years of training leaves marks that run in both directions. You know, Obi-Wan says, as Anakin sits beside him, in 20 years of training you, there were moments when I thought, this boy will be the greatest Jedi who ever lived. And others when I thought, this boy is going to be the death of me. A pause. I was right about both. Those aren't mutually exclusive. A rare thing happens. Obi-Wan Kenobi laughs, a genuine, unguarded sound, here in the garden with the dry fountain and the gold light and everything that happened in the last 14 hours, sitting between them like shared territory. Then he sobers. Anakin, what you did in that office, not the fight, not the evidence, not the chip research. The moment you turned away from what he was offering. That was the bravest thing I've ever witnessed. Anakin is quiet for a moment. It didn't feel like bravery. It felt like waking up. That's what courage usually feels like, Obi-Wan says. From the inside. The fountain that isn't running. The light that is. Go home, Obi-Wan says. Hold your children. Tell your wife you love her. Do all the things the Order told you not to want. And you? I'll be here, same as always. A beat. But perhaps now we can have dinner without it being classified information. Anakin stands. He puts his hand briefly on Obi-Wan's shoulder, the particular contact of two people who have been through something together that they will never fully explain to anyone who wasn't there, and walks toward the garden's exit and the city beyond it, and the apartment where his family is waiting. Obi-Wan watches him go and does not look away until he is gone. The balcony of their apartment. Padmé inside with the twins and the attending medical droids, and the particular quiet of people who have just done something enormous and are resting in its aftermath. He stands at the railing and breathes. He reaches out through the Force, feels the galaxy the way a man feels weather, not commanding it, not assessing it, simply receiving what is there. Still fractured in 1,000 places. Still dangerous. The war not over. Palpatine's infrastructure built into the Senate and the military and the civil service across decades, not dismantled in a night. Grievous somewhere, mobile, unresolved, clone troopers in facilities across the galaxy, waiting for surgery that will take months. Separatist systems that will not simply lay down their arms because one man's tribunal has begun. The wounds are real. They will take years to close. He does not pretend otherwise. But the Force breathes. The living Force, not a nexus, not a weapon, not the instrument of someone else's ambition. The Force as it actually is, patient, ongoing, moving through every living thing the way light moves through a room whose curtains have finally been opened. He can feel it cycling through the planet beneath his feet, through the city that covers it, through the billions of beings who woke this morning into a galaxy that is different in ways they do not yet have language for. He closes his eyes. And at the edge of sensing, not a vision, not a message, nothing the Force owes him, a presence, the particular warmth of something that endured past death and chose to remain. Qui-Gon Jinn, who found him on Tatooine and believed in what he was before anyone else thought to look. Here present, not for any of the terrible moments in between when presence might have changed something. Here for this one. The Force does not offer explanations. It offers something more honest than explanations. Witness. He is seen. He is known. He is exactly where the Force intended. From inside the apartment, a sound. A newborn's voice, furious and full and joyful all at once. The sound of a person who has just arrived in the world and finds it entirely inadequate to their requirements. Then, a second voice, joining the first. Two voices, two futures, two sides of the Force that were always meant to exist together, now existing. He opens his eyes. He turns from the railing and goes inside. Let us know what you'd like to see next. The end.